Thank you for joining us for Let the Prophet Speak. This week's episode is a continuation of our Love series featuring Daveron, Rosier-Critten, and Destiny Young, the founders of Global Art Society, a nonprofit arts organization. Love is a gift, and we should desire love above all spiritual gifts. Dr. Rosier starts this episode with an interview of Daveron Rosier-Critten, and then we continue the teaching that Daveron and Destiny began on love. Watch and listen, and we will join you at the end of the broadcast.
God can do anything more than we can ask or think, more than we can imagine in our wildest dreams. By His blood I have been redeemed, and in His mercy He kept me. Who wouldn't let my enemies triumph over me? Oh, my God can do anything more than we.
Bob Jones gave you a prophecy when he decided that, well, not decided, he said the Lord spoke to him to anoint us both. Mm-hmm. And anoint us at the same time, and that's when you were doing the dance, seven types of worship in the same sanctuary. He said the Lord said that He would come that Sunday, and the one that runs and leaps in front of Him. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea He was talking about you, because you were a little girl and I was an adult, and I was trying to figure out who was the other person. And He kept saying, no, that's not the person, that's not the person, that's not the person. At the same time, He gave you a prophetic word that you would be able to do so many things well, you would have to decide which one you'd like to do.
I remember
that included singing.
Yes, I remember that. But I do remember that. I never can imagine which way God, or what He's doing and how He's going to do it. It just, every day I just try to be obedient, and okay, I'm going to trust you. But it's very hard because I am consumed by fear in certain areas. You know, everything in me is like, no. My body starts to say no. You know, even my mouth doesn't want to move. My insides are shaking when I'm trying to sing. And I was thinking about this today. I was asking God, like, why is it so difficult? You know, one of my strongest gifts is faith, but one of my greatest battles is fear all the time. You know, I have to really
They diametrically oppose each other.
Absolutely.
Faith and fear are always fighting, because fear is from the demonic side, and faith is from the angelic side.
And boy, does it beat me up. It fights. We're always engaging in war, fear and faith. And I like to think I'm on the faith side, trying to battle the fear, you know, all the time and beat it up. But my parents both told stories about them struggling, being in front of people and having stage fright really bad. My dad said when he was called to preach, he would hide behind the pulpit, or was that you?
No, it was your dad.
Okay.
I have my own stories.
It was him. He would
sit and hide on Tyndall Air Force Base and sit down in between the couches and let people take over the meeting, and I would have a fit later on, and we go into other places. Yeah. He would tell me, say something first, but it made me sharper and better at extemporaneous speaking, because he would push me out front and say something. And so he really helped me to be able to speak off the cuff without thought. I don't think that was his motive. I think he just wanted to use me to make him all right.
And my mother said that as a child she was always very nervous. And back then her grandmother gave her something called Nervine.
Yeah, absolutely.
To calm her nerves.
Alka-Seltzer tablets that look like Alka-Seltzer. I was so nervous my hands would shake. You know, my feet would shake. I was just extremely nervous child. And as an adult, when I started prophesying, I thought God's trying to give me a heart attack. I would say to him, God, you're trying to give me a heart attack. I can't do this. And I would literally have, before I knew the symptoms of a panic attack, I was having full-blown panic attacks where I needed a paper bag to slow up my breathing. I would have to cup my hands, turn around, and say, okay, God, I'm going to faint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I that came to me today.
Sorry.
That came to me today, like, oh, okay, it's generational spirits of fear or familiar spirits that, you know, are trying to attack me, so it's making it even harder on top of my normal
That's exactly
nerves.
what it is, and the listeners need to be aware that if you have children, godchildren, nieces, nephews, stepchildren, whatever demonic force challenge your generation,
bloodline.
they're going to go for 4 generations. So they're going to look for anybody that's gifted, anointed, talented, have ascension gift callings, gifts of the Spirit operating in their life, any prophetic word, they're going to show up to sabotage them just like they sabotaged you. Going to begin to put pen to paper in the pen of a ready writer. When you watch the other individuals and say, well, that's good, you know, they have done this book, but I'm not really sure if I wanted to do this, and the stress of it. And I sense him saying, but I didn't have you write before, because what you were going to write would measure up with religiosity, and what I want you to write will entail the butt-naked truth, the truth that a lot of people in ministry would not share, the truth that a lot of individuals in marriage would not share. He says, I'm going to have you to talk about liberating truths. And Orlando was just the beginning of me peeling the orange and bearing your soul, and even things that you shared that you had planned not to share. And even when you started out, you contemplated and said in your mind, I am not going to talk about this. And the Lord said, but it was me that led you. And he said, at first I forced you to drink, but then you begin to see that this is good and this is what the body needs, that it's really watering my soul. And instead of you feeling the shame, he said, I showed you how to heal others that are reeling from the shame, that are keeping secrets that were not theirs to keep, that was meant to be an antidote, that was to life those that have been bitten by life. Hallelujah. And even your daughter, where you just felt like, God, I just can't preach, or I can't do what I need to do. There's nothing else I can do. But the Lord said that you have planted in the soil, and I've covered over the seed, and I am watering the seed, and I'm going to send another to pluck up the weeds. You're not to fret over that. Out of your obedience, he says, I'm going to bring healing, even a misunderstanding where it's just caused a gap, the misunderstanding that's a real truth to her, but it's not necessarily a truth. He says, I'm going to be the one that's going to change that, to not fret over that, not to be weary over that, of how can I heal this. He says, I'm going to take her back to the 5-year-old Kalani. I'm going to take her back to the 2-year-old Kalani. And then I'm going to bring her up to the woman.
You can help us take the gospel around the world by taking advantage of these offers. For your gift of any amount, you will receive today's teaching on CD. For your gift of $50 or more, you will receive the Complete Love series on DVD, which includes teachings, a dramatic presentation by Destiny Young as Sister Irma, and music by Daveron Rosier-Critten. To make a donation, call us at 850-769-5442 or email your request to healingthewholeperson at comcast.net. You can also make your payment securely through PayPal. Thank you for supporting Let the Prophet Speak and helping us reach the nations.
My God can do anything more than we can ask or think, more than we can imagine in our wildest dreams. By His blood I have been redeemed, and in His mercy He kept me. Who wouldn't let my enemies triumph over?
But gifts without love are worthless. There are a lot of gifted people that live like hell. There are a lot of gifted people, but gossipers. Gifted people, but backbiters. Gifted people, but stubborn. Gifted people, but stingy. Powerful gifts. Gifted people, but deceitful. So to have the gifts flowing in your life, but not have the fruit of the Spirit, if you're not led by love, love is the one that gauges how you display the gifts. Loving people will make you flow into gifts when you don't want to, simply because you want someone to be helped. Love will make you get up and go past yourself because you care enough about the body of Christ and understanding that you have a talent, you have a gift, you have something to offer. They will know we are Christians by our, can you say that again? They will know, who's they? The world will know you are Christians by our love. The world won't necessarily know you're a Christian because you have a word, because psychics have a word. Mediums have a word. Witches have a word. But they will know, the world will know that you're Christ-like, made in his image by the love of Christ that emanates from you. That simply means you can't set it off like everybody else. I was chatting with Sharon earlier before service, and she said she had gone into the hospital, and one of the emergency room doctors, they'd had a new policy that now emergency room doctors work for cheap, so it won't be necessarily your physician. The emergency room doctors, their job is they're in, they're out of there. They may fly all over the United States, so they have no attachments. It's about the dollar sign. She said immediately she knew how sick she was, but this doctor decided he would send her home. And her following words spoke to me about love. She said, I started to say something to him, but I realized what I said would have really upset him, and it would have really upset me, and potentially caused me to have severe heart problems. So my love for myself said, don't throw yourself into a rage. Don't get angry because this won't solve anything. And as a result of it, talked to her doctor later on. They gave her a more excellent way how to handle the situation so she didn't jeopardize her health in the process of venting or reacting based on the situation or the circumstances. How does that tie into the gifts? If we're not careful, we react based on situations, circumstances, how people look, how people act, and you make decisions that I'm not going to minister to them because of how they're behaving. And they are the very individuals that may need your gift to change their behavior. There are some individuals that aren't mean just because they want to be mean. Life has done them in. Life has given them a raw deal. Life has affected them in such a way that they've been so attacked, and they've not had individuals that tried to love them out of their situation. So as a result of it, it's become a way of life. They're mean because they don't know any other way. But it's hard to be mean and antagonistic in the face of love. It's hard to just keep cursing somebody out and you loving them. And real love is super hard to keep loving the unlovable. But we are required to do that and shift into overdrive this year.
First of all, I had started writing, and I used to write, and I used to journal a lot, and I used to write songs and things that the Lord would speak to my spirit and would minister to me. And I began doing that again, and because my desire, of course, is to be so close to God that I never miss him on behalf of his people. I don't want to damage his people. I just want to love them and see them fulfill what he's placed in them. But what she was sharing as far as my daughter, that she came back, and she came back to the church. And she stood before the church, and me and my husband apologized to us and the church and asked for our forgiveness. And it's something to see her call me. She calls me pastor now all the time. I'm pastor. I'm mom, but I'm pastor. And that means a lot to a mother, that if, I could be everybody else's pastor, but not to be able to pastor your own, it really hurts you. But for her to be able to receive that now from us, and she even calls my husband Pastor Ralph. The funny thing is about it, though, she calls us that all the time. But for her, it works. So it keeps us in perspective in her life. But I know, like you said, God is going to bring others, and she's just it's like God is just doing inner surgery on her, and she's receiving it. And I thank God for the words and the prayers that I know you've been praying.
should desire above all gifts love. You should desire loving and pray to love over all gifts. And I thought that was very interesting because I was thinking, what do? I've always prayed for the gifts. Like, Lord, use me, give me wisdom. I want peace. I'll go down the list. But I don't feel like often enough I pray to love. I really had to examine that and thought, why don't I do that? That's something that's kind of ignored, or people aren't really focusing on that each day. It can be perceived as a common thing, as a natural thing, like eating or drinking, something that you just don't think about. Oh, I love who I love. I don't love who I don't love, and I'm okay with that. But it's really a snare or a trick because our mind is desensitized to the need to love and to pray for God to restore our love walks. We don't even realize we're not loving the way we should to capacity. So I think this is important that he's bringing this up. And I asked him, and I think that you should ask him for forgiveness. Lord, forgive me for not loving the way that I should and for getting familiar. It's like you're comfortable. You're used to somebody being there and used to going to church and used to the same thing. I'm going to sit down. Like when Miss Marie was praying, she did a phenomenal job. But at certain points, I saw people's eyes popping up. Like, oh, still praying? Okay, it's like kind of, I'm tired. I want to go on to the next thing. And she kept persisting. And then things started happening. And then people were like, oh, it did what it needed to do in the atmosphere and in you. But sometimes we can get complacent or comfortable, ritualistic. We come to church, the same thing. You really, really, really have to fight against that, guys. That's really a trick of the enemy for you to be in church and just your life is really not being impacted the way that it should. And then you need a burning passion. That's why you have to pray for love. For God, you need to pray that he restores your love level with him. Lord, let me love you properly. And then let me love me properly. Sometimes we treat people like we treat ourselves. Sometimes we treat people worse than we treat ourselves. And then there's people who treat people better than they treat themselves. But we want a balance. We want to love the way that Christ loves. We don't want to just do something that's natural to us. But sometimes we're affected by how we were raised, what we saw. But you're older now. So you can make a conscious decision now that you're aware. God, you're requiring me to love. Okay, have I been loving? Examine yourself like I did. Okay, I really didn't. I've been married 15 years, and I had to apologize to my husband. Like, I got hurt before I married you, and so I really vowed that I was never going to love like that again. Never going to give that much of myself where I feel out of control, just this burning passion. So there were certain things that happened in our relationship where I should have responded in a loving way to help heal him from some of the things that he's going through. And, to love properly the way that a wife's supposed to love. But I just could not do it. I just couldn't. It's like I was just locked up and I would say, I love you. And I would do what I needed to do. And I did love him, but I just could not release myself because the pain was too much to revisit. So I had to apologize. Like, incidents came up where I would say, I'm so sorry that when you needed me, I had an attitude, or I was in my feelings and got upset. It's easy to dismiss people or respond a certain way if you're not sensitive or in love with them or tied, And I apologize to him for not giving him what he needed. He's my spouse. I shouldn't have disregarded him in that way because I was hurt. So I had to repent to him and ask God to heal me, but help me to face it because a lot of parts of me did not want to deal with that. Who wants to go back and revisit the worst pain of your life? I mean, naturally, that does not make any sense to me. I want to remember all the things that went wrong in my life and I just want to feel that again so you can heal me, Lord. I mean, nobody's excited about that. I mean, it's just unrealistic. But it's really necessary. It impedes our ability to love. That's a roadblock, a snare.
You can help us take the gospel around the world by taking advantage of these offers. For your gift of any amount, you will receive today's teaching on CD. For your gift of $50 or more, you will receive the Complete Love series on DVD, which includes teachings, a dramatic presentation by Destiny Young as Sister Irma, and music by Daveron Rosier-Critten. To make a donation, call us at 850-769-5442 or email your request to healingthewholeperson@comcast.net. You can also make your payment securely through PayPal. Thank you for supporting Let the Prophet Speak and helping us reach the nations.
My God can do anything more than we can ask or think, more than we can imagine in our wildest dreams. By His blood I have been redeemed, and in His mercy He kept me. Who wouldn't let my enemies triumph? L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. E is very, very extraordinary. Oh, that was V, sorry. E is even more than anyone that you adore. Now, love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game or two for two. Two. If love can make it, take my heart, but please don't break it, Destiny. Love was made for me and you. Yay! Yay! The enemy is subtle. I don't know if you've heard of this in church before. Okay. But the word subtle to me means he'll get in things and make it seem natural or normal, like your own thoughts or a natural response to you, so you ignore and you won't know that he has something to do with it. For instance, if Destiny, I'm going to use a real example, okay? Okay, so... I always put my business out on the street. Yes. All right, so we have little love spats, but this really wasn't a love spat. And so Destiny came to me, and she gave me a gift. Go ahead. Okay. She gave me a gift. And the gift it kind of shocked me. It was different for her. I didn't understand why she was giving me this gift. So I felt some type of way, but I couldn't process what I felt about it. So it kept gnawing at me at home. And I've learned, my mom has trained me, pay attention to your feelings, to your senses. Don't ignore them. Ask probing questions, keep praying. Lord, why do I feel this way? What's going on? Don't ignore it. So I kept investigating, and I know her, so I know that she loves me. I know she never means me any harm, but I felt harmed by her gift. I felt hurt, but I couldn't figure out why. It didn't make any sense. A gift shouldn't make you feel hurt. Somebody just gave, you know what I mean? So I had to process, how do what is this? What happened that I tracked back to, it had to do with my past. This person gave me a gift before in my past in the same way that she did. Meaning, like for instance, money. I'll use this example without saying the gift. Say Destiny gave me like $20 and said, for your birthday or something, I'm going to give you $80, but here's a down payment on your birthday gift. You know what I mean? So certain things like that that happened to me in reality, but Destiny didn't know that happened to me from somebody that I loved in the past. And so she was trying to bless me and give me a nice gesture and give me a gift with all that she had at the time. You know what I mean? But I couldn't receive that in that way, and I couldn't figure out what was happening to me. And so when I prayed and went back, I figured, okay, this when that person gave me that gift in increments, it made me feel devalued. It made me feel like I wasn't worth it. This is all you're worth right now. I have some other things to do. I'll come back and pay you later for that. But then I would see them, oh, here, you need your money, to strangers or other people. Here you go. Or paying this, I got to pay these bills. But I'll pay you, I'll get to you later. And so that was something that I didn't realize was a problem or painful for me. And so I went to her and I spoke to her about it and told her, I know that you don't know this, but I'm grateful that you did that, because I never would have remembered that, that was there, that pain was there, that I need to be healed in that area. It's something quite weird, that to be used. I don't know why I went over there and said that, though, but,
I think you're talking about just issues that prohibit us from loving in the correct manner.
Okay, I know what it was, too, but also, like, Satan could have used that to make me offended with her, is what I was trying to say. But it's justified, so I wouldn't necessarily catch it, because she did that to me, and they did that to me. It's normal for me to feel hurt, so I accept it as normal, and then I don't see that he's in there working. Mm-hmm. That was what I was trying to say, and it's lots of examples in your life that's the same way. If somebody dies, and you're hurt about your loss in your family, and then a person that's supposed to be close to you doesn't acknowledge that, or they say something and make you feel really bad, and you just go, you feel hurt about that. Well, you would think, I'm going through a loss in my family, so I'm just hurting right now. It's justified that I should be upset, and they were insensitive in my time of need. But really, it's the enemy waiting on a moment in your life so that you won't see him. He wants to intensify things or get his hand in it, kind of twist it and aggravate the situation. So just try to spot and look out for him is what my point was. That
he's subtle.
Yes, he's subtle. Watch out.
He gets in your everyday life and your everyday thoughts, makes you think that it's you, and makes you feel justified in that. And it's against what the Bible tells us to have agape love, no matter what. He wants you to be forgiving. He wants you. I'm sorry again, Evelyn. I didn't mean to do that.
I really, and see, I need to rebuke you. I need to put on the Sister Irma outfit, and you need to submit. Enjoy today's broadcast, and that you will join our commission to walk in love in 2016 and grow in love in 2016. I also want to invite you to attend a taping of Let the Prophet Speak or become a partner. We thank you for your support in advance, and we hope to see you next week.